talk about the topic of bullying. Okay, let me get my notes to remind me to stick on the topic. The reason I want to talk about this topic is because I was in a big supermarket, famous one here in my place. I was They was having a sale. I love going on sale because you get so many things on 50 to 70% discount. So I have an app that an e-wallet app, and they have this alert when there's a sale. So I went to the sale, and I only check what's on sale if I things that I needed. So I said, okay, let me go to that, go on sale. But when there's sale, of course, there's a lot of people. So there was I bought only items that I needed. So but the line was so long and the people are so nice. We were talking to each other. So I was talking to this one old man. I asked at first, we are not talking. I just asked him, can you please watch my basket? I put near to him because I was next in line to him, and I saw the guy, one of the salesperson, display the because the shelf was empty. Then I saw he refill it. So I went and I said, let me get some of that sale thing. So he said, okay, I'll watch your basket. And then when I come back, I was so grateful and I was thankful, of course, because he watched it for me. And then we talk, and then he was, when you talk, of course, to strangers you don't know, sometimes you can feel that person aura on the energy, and I think he knows my energy is always like my daughter has a word for it, a pin caution. When people see me, they will just unload everything. It's like I'm a energy. I'm pulling the negative energy, and like it's like I um I think it's like people saw you and they know that maybe they feel it, that this person I can unload my load. It's like I'm just, I don't know, it's just that people just want to tell their things, negative things in their life. So I'm like a pin cushion, absorbs shock absorbers. I absorb it, but I learn to, yeah, as you grow mature, you learn to not to let it affect you. You can listen, but you're not going to give advice or just listen and then forget about it. But this time, I just because it gives me an idea to talk about bullying. So I at first he told me about his kids. He has a special child. When you say you're really, until autistic, the classic thing, but it's mild. And this autistic, when they get diagnosed, because of this, they have the typical signs and symptoms. Unsociable, very ritualistic. So he told this kid was diagnosed with and it's adult now. He was diagnosed of autism, and he said he was so smart. He was, every entrance exam he went through, he passed it, and then but he got bullied in school when he was in high school. He told me. So I told him, so he told me about what happened. Of course, this kid, they call him names, and they're really making him feel worse as it is. And he can go to school. It might not be, he's just a mild one. So unless you are very, of course, when you're different, you get noticed quickly. And when then you're just quiet and you don't do anything about, being a different in the whole class, of course you will get targeted. So they start bullying him, and then he start, when you get, they are ritualistic, and you disturb their own world, you get the backlash, and he hit them, and then his father was called, and course the question, and he told everything, and then so he get famous in school like that, and then still they keep bullying him because he is different. So he stopped going to school because of that. Then I told this new friend of mine. I call him new friend. I forgot his name, and I'm not gonna. Anyway, I'm not good at remembering names unless I meet you again. Anyway, so the point is that I want to talk about it. How to stop this bullying. It's a as a parent, we already know that bullying exists. It's in the news, it's in the internet, it's in the radio, it's in the television. At least, as a parent, as a mother, as a father, at least do some little research about it. Don't say that, oh, my kid is tough, it cannot be bullied. Are you sure that your kid cannot be bullied? Or are you sure that your kid is a bully? This is a two-way process. There's a victim and there's a perpetrator. If your kid is not a bully in the get bullied other person is not good. It's how much pain this if your kid is a bully, how much pain it inflict. It even causes suicide, or it disrupts a person's life. Okay, I'm not going to talk about guilt about at least as a human being, be responsible of your own kid. So, of course, when we talk, I always, I cannot be stay quiet. So I told him, my daughter, the first thing I thought about her before she went to school is that first, if anyone call you names that is not your name and it's a hurtful, words, you don't tolerate it. You have to correct it. You once you tolerated it, it will it they think that you're just quiet and accepted it, so they keep doing it. But once you heard it, you have to stop it. I told her, you should not tolerate anyone calling you any names or any words that hurt your feeling. Only your name should be called you, no other. If I told her they call you ugly or whatever, you have to return it back and tell that person. I teach her, this is how you tell your kids. If they say you're ugly, and then you should tell them, your words are ugly, it means you're ugly too. I told her this kind of thing. You have to learn to return those bad words, those hurtful feelings back to that person, because they will never notice these words, that it hurtful. So once you return it back, they will feel the hurt. So they know that the words that came out from their mouth, because they were never taught by their parents. So once you return it back to them, they will realize what came out from their words, from their mouth, is hurtful words. Because sometimes, kids, that's the thing. When you're at home, kids observes you. Kids imitate you. So whatever you do at home, it will always show in your kid. So anyway, my point is that I'm not going to judge you how you grow your kids, but this video is about those kids who are being bullied. As a parent, it's our responsibility to stop. And how is that? The first thing is you have to equip your kids anti-bullying. That's my anti-bullying method. Is that any words that hurt you, you should return it immediately to that person who says that. That's the number one. And number two, I told her, you should never ever say any hurtful, negative words or call any person any names except for his own name. If you don't know his name, ask him. Don't call him any hurtful words. That's what the second rule. And then the third, if it become physical, and there are a lot, this is some psychologists who will not agree with me, or some expert, that when they hurt you, they should hurt them back. When it becomes physical, if they pull your hair, you should pull the hair. If they pinch you, you should pinch them. If they slap you, you should slap them. You don't tolerate this thing. If you're against the group, you run away as much as fast as you can. You cannot fight a group. You will lose and you will get hurt. You will be badly beaten. I told her, run. If it's in the school, it's in a secluded area like the toilet, or something that is far away from a group of people, run as much as you can to the nearest group of people. If you can see a teacher, run to the teacher and told them that. And then tell the teacher, if there's no action, you have to, but I told her, you don't wait for an action. Unless you get, I told her, if it's really physical, then you have to tell your teacher. And when you arrive home, you have to tell me. If it's just words, and they won't stop. When you say back to them, and then they're a group of people and they're hurling so many bad, throwing bad words to you, and they're really, really becoming bad. And if you cannot handle it, then go to your teacher and tell the teacher. If the teacher cannot handle it and will not stop, then you have to tell me. I told her, you really have to tell me, even if you told the teacher. The kid has to tell you whatever happens in school, especially bullying. And as a parents, don't ignore it. Come on. You say it's a joke. No, this kind, in our time, it's a joke, but you get hurt. Your feeling is hurt. But since nobody taught us, I think that's the reason, is that because nobody taught us about bullying. So it got tolerated, and now it become like a culture. As they grow, they think it's just a joke. A joke is different from from a malice. When there's a joke, everybody laughs. If there's a joke, you laugh. But if you don't laugh, it's not a joke. When we make a joke, if we're friends, of course you can make joke and we tolerate it because we're friends, we accepted it. But if you're not friends and then suddenly someone trying to joke you, say a joking words to you, that's not a joke. That's a bullying. It hurts your feeling, and you're not even friends. So there's a difference. You have to teach your children that there's a difference. If everybody circle of friends is having a joke, of course they're your friends. It's just a joke. But when a person who you don't even know, or you're not acquainted, it's just part of your school or your classroom, and suddenly trying to hurt your feelings, calling you names. That's not joke. That's not a joke. It's bullying. It hurts your feeling, and the person is, you don't even know this person. So that's another thing you have to tell your kid. And the most important part is that this the physical thing. When you have to tell kids, because this is the safety measures. You have to tell how to run and how to fight. And the number one rule is that if they're a group, you have to run. Don't ever stay there. You will get beaten. And another thing, I think number 4 is that when an adult, you have to teach your kid. This is not only children in the classroom can bully your kids. There's also an adult. Even a teacher can bully your kid. You know, it, it, your kid may not be the smartest kid in the classroom, but that doesn't mean that the teacher can just, embarrass your kid in front of the classroom. That's bullying. So you have to tell you have to tell your kids when your teacher is embarrassing you, that's not a joke, or make fun of you in the classroom. That's not a you have to teach it to your kids that it's not anymore like a part of the classroom. It's bullying. Can you imagine your teacher call you stupid in front of the whole class? You will be labeled stupid when you come out from the classroom. Now, that's not good. You have to teach your kids, and you have to tell that to tell you that, because that once that started, it will be like a chain reaction. Once the teacher do that, all the classmates will bully you, will call you stupid. So you have to teach your kids that no adult can bully. If you cannot fight an adult. So that you tell your kids to tell you, and as a parents, you have to believe your kids any words. They are kids. They cannot fight an adult. So once your kids tell you about it, you have to believe it. But you don't have to. But of course, you have to investigate, question your kids. You will know when your kid lies. You can. You This is your kid. They when they lied, you know. Every time you ask them, you have to keep repeating, asking. And then when they slip up, they lied, right? If they don't lie, the same words, like when you're eating, you ask this question. Of course, they are relaxed, they're not guarded. So they will slip up eventually. And if they lie, they will slip up. So before you go and run to the school, of course you have to investigate first. You real you Because you cannot go blindly. This is against, this is a very important matters, especially when your kids get bullied by an adult. So you have to investigate. May you don't we trust our kids, but we don't really trust them 100% unless you really know your child. Then you know your kid. Some kids, especially if your kids stay outside, prefer to stay outside than stay in your home, there's something wrong in your house or your home. It's not a home anymore. If your kid is not happy staying in the house, it's a house. A home is, a place where there's kids are happy and comfortable. So if your kid doesn't want to stay inside your house, there is something wrong in your house. So what I'm trying to say is that you question yourself. What is wrong? If your kid doesn't want, it doesn't mean that the kid has to stay there 24 hours or something. If your kids stay in your home without, that who used to love going to school, there may be something wrong in the school. That's another sign. So you have to be aware of this kind of thing. You have to observe your kids, and especially when they tell you that there are people are hurting them with bad words, hurting their feelings. I'm sure they get bullied at school. When they tell you, you have to believe them, because really there's really something going on. And if you don't listen and you don't take action to investigate, go to school and investigate, one day you will just find out that your kids get hurt, or your kids cannot tolerate anymore those bullying. This bullying, they rob you with your self-esteem. This bullying will rob you with your confidence, because imagine, you don't know how much negative is those words. They're kids. They either don't have the mind of a matured person to protect themselves. They don't know how. So as parents, you're the one who should protect them. If they get bullied in school badly, you have to go to school and demand justice for your kids being bullied. If the school didn't do anything, do it in social media. So many means, to make awareness of what's going on in that school, that they're not even able to protect your kids. Or if it's really bad, you have to pull out your kids from the school. I know that's the last resort. If the school cannot do anything, to protect your kid, you have to pull out the kid from the school. This is an environment where they go to school for like 7 to 8 hours. Can you imagine? Every time your kids get cornered and get bullied, it's really, it will affect them mentally and emotionally. You will really, you will just find out later on your kid commit to suicide. So as a parent, you have to observe. Your kids loves going to school, and suddenly the kids, most of them, if they don't trust you enough, you don't build this kind of trusting relationship. Your kid will just keep quiet, because they will tell them, so if I tell her, nothing happens. My parents will not do anything, because you're your kind of parents who doesn't care. You have their own way of bringing up your kids. Some people, are very highly protective. Some they taught their discipline, and yet they learn how to give them freedom, respect and everything. But there are different ways of bringing up your kids, and but what I'm trying to say is here is that when there's a behavioral changes in your kid, you have to ask or you have to know what's going on with your kids. They love school and suddenly they stop going to school and they start hating school. Then there's something wrong going on in that school. Yeah, I'm 100% sure that the kid is get bullied. So because you didn't in the first place, if you equip your kids, you give them at least you have done your research and you don't taught them how to protect themselves in the first place. They will never get bullied. If they get bullied, at least they know how to protect themselves. You have equipped them. You have taught them. So another point is that as a parents you're working, yeah, you're excused, you're working, you're busy, but if you cannot be able to provide a safe and secure environment, then why have kids? You're just gonna destroy another person, another human being life. If you cannot provide this thing that when you want to when to those who are not married and plan to get married and have kids, you have to think it over. Can I provide a safe and secure environment for my kid? Can I provide their basic needs? You just don't have to feed them. Bringing up kids is not just giving food, shelter, clothing. You have to provide them in a safe and secure environment. You have to provide them mental, emotional well-being. That's the kind of things that kids needs. It's just not food, clothing, and shelter. So I'm going to be out of topic again. So let me go back to the bullying. So as a parent, it's better to prevent than to things happen. So if you know if you know someone we're gonna having a kid, tell them you will research, tell your kids how to protect themselves from bullying. Do this anti-bullying. I know it works for me. And so I will just, wrap it up. I will just summarize it. Before your kids goes to school, teach them that nobody can say any bad words or hurt their feelings. If they do, you have to hurl back the words. You have to make them feel. You have to return these bad words to them or this hurtful to them, and never ever do the say bad words or hurt other people or call other people names that will hurt their feelings. You have to do that because some kids they don't have awareness. So if you don't want your kid not to be bullied or your kid to become a bully, you have to tell them that. And two, three, if an adult bullying your kids, tell your kids to tell you immediately. Don't fight an adult. You never win. You're a kid, and that person is an adult. You need an adult to deal with that adult bully. And fourth, when it get physical and when it get physical like pulling hair, pinching, you have to fight back. Come on. If you don't, your kids will be bullied by that person if your kid doesn't fight back. They say no, don't teach. That doesn't work. This is a real world. If you don't learn to fight back, you will get bullied. You will get hurt. Uh, for me it's a bullshit not to fight back. Come on. Who I don't know what. It's not violence. We're not teaching violence to your kid. You're teaching to your kids to fight back or you will get hurt. Those who say that to fight back is stupid. They may not agree with me, but this is my real life experience. So if you don't fight back, you will get bullied. You only don't fight back and run if you are encountering, if they start to being physical and they're in a group of people. Of course, you're not going to win. You have to run and for your safety, and you have to need group of people to or adult, to protect you. You cannot win when it become physical. And if and fifth, if if the bullying becomes so severe, if you cannot handle by yourself, then you have to tell your teacher. Let them get involved and tell them what happened. And if the school done nothing, it's time for your parents to to do something. It's you have to tell your parents. This the school cannot handle it, and it become more severe. You have to tell your parents. You have to tell your kids. You have to tell me immediately if something is going. You get bullied in school, and the teacher doesn't do anything. You have to tell me. You have to tell that to your kids. It's necessary. And when they tell you, at least listen and take action. If you don't, you ignore it. One day you will find out your kid is gone. Your kid committed suicide. A good thing if your kid committed suicide and they were you be able to revive them, or you find out early. But what if they just jump in the water and get drowned, or jump in the building? Do you think your kid can survive? If they slash your wrists, at least you can bring them to the doctor, and before they bleed to death, if you find out. But what if they do a drastic, suicide method? They will immediately die. They're young kids. They don't their emotion, they 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 don't they're selfish. They only think how to relieve that pain, that suffering, and the only way they think is if it's too much, they will, when you go in depression, you cannot think clearly. You just want to remove the pain, and the best way is to kill yourself. So before the thing happen, you need to listen to your kids. And I think I'm in the sixth now. This is really important. If the school didn't take action and you were there and you complain, you go to social media. That's that. This is the best way. Once you decided to go to social media, you have to pull out your kids, because you know some people will not be able to handle being broadcast in the social media, and there will be a backlash to your kids. Let's be realistic here. There will be a backlash, because this is, once you go to social media, you're exposing this thing, and the if your kid is still at school, they will get backlash. They will get angry. Good if these people, um, of course, the school will try to protect themselves. Maybe not harm your kids, but those bullies, and they get exposed. Let's face it, they'll get revenge anyway. So pull your kid out from school, or transfer your kids from others to another school. They may miss half of the school year. So what? This is your kid's life. It's better to miss school than to for half an year or few years and transfer them to another school if they're in the middle of the school, than to lose your kid. So that's my that's the way I protect my child. I think never. The good thing is she never experienced bullying in school. She there was an okay. It's not really actually bullying. When they start puberty and they start getting crushes. So boys will notice beautiful girls in the classroom. Of course, my daughter is not ugly. So many people tell she's beautiful. So of course I believe other people. I don't believe myself, because as a parent, especially mother, they're always biased. They always look the kids as beautiful, smartest. It is bias. Some you cannot see clearly. So especially when they say beautiful, I don't, I don't 100% believe it when when I say myself, my daughter is beautiful, because I know mother. Of course, I'm biased, but when other people that, especially the people you don't know, and they say, "Oh, your daughter she looks beautiful." So when they say that, then of course I believe, because you don't know this person. They just say they think your daughter is beautiful. So of course you believe. So I know my daughter is beautiful. Not That's not coming from me, from other people that I don't even know that we just met. So one day, her hair, boys, when you have, this is another topic, and like that, I will talk about it. You have to. Okay, I'll just we'll talk about it later. So, you know, kids when they start getting puberty, because they're having crushes. They learn, they start to feel, they start to realize that girls are different from them, and they start to think that girls are beautiful. And if they don't know how to talk to the girls, they start pulling their hair to get an attention. So I know my daughter is beautiful when I really believe when boys start pulling her hair to get her attention. So I told her, what did you? I already told her. So it's not actually a bullying, but you know it's just the way to get an attention. But still, for me, when it get physical, you have to fight back. So I tell, what did you do? I throw my bag at him, and he stopped. Okay, that's good. I told her. You really had to you really had to fight back, which is good. She did, and I told her, if the boy just wants your attention, you have to tell them. You don't have to pull my hair. Just talk to me like any other person normally do. I told her, tell them that. So that's the only thing I remember that that she experienced, but it's not actually a bullying. But she never get bullied. So it means that my methods are effective, because my daughter, see, when you see my daughter is my daughter speak pure English and very little dialect or national language. So she's almost different in a okay, when she was in a private school. Of course, most of the kids, they, even if they don't speak fluent English, but they speak English and Ilonggo, English and Tagalog, a mix. So my kids is not uh, is not the odd one or a different band, because there's so many who speak English. But when I transfer her to public school, because this public school is near to us, and of course I want her to learn Ilonggo or Tagalog, because if she stays in private school, they will just keep talking in English. So that's the main reason. And of course, there's the the time they have this dialect teach in the classroom, which I find it stupid, because they already talk this language at home. Anyway, so since my daughter speak pure English, so of course she will having hard time with a local dialect. And that's, imagine you have a local dialect taught to you in the classroom, and also there's a national language. So although it's okay, but she's having hard time. So that's the reason I put her in international school, because in a private international school, because they only speak English, and they only just have one subject about national language, and every subject was taught in English, but they only have one subject, that is the local dialect and the national language. Unlike if she's in the public school from grade 1 to grade 4, I think they gonna taught my daughter uh, math, science, in our local dialect. Can you imagine that? How they will translate this, like trigonometry? How will they say that in our local dialect? Anyway, so she was studying in that, but when the local dialect, you know, was not was it's, it's only until grade 4, and then they will have to revert back to English, teaching in medium English medium in from grade 5 up. So I put her in public school to learn Tagalog and local dialect. But the thing is, so I was worried because she was gonna be, so she went in the public when she was in the public. So I was worried because she's gonna be the odd one, and it will be very noticeable because she speak only English. But I never expected, that I was really expecting that she will get bullied, in my mind, in my heart. So, but she never get bullied. She never experienced bullying. Instead, what happened? Her classmates were talking to her in English, and one day the advisor called me and talked to me about my daughter because they noticed that she likes to be alone. Only when you talk to her, she will talk to you, and she doesn't have friends in her classroom. Then the teacher was wondering, so I to talk. The teacher told me, and then they was wondering why she go to school by herself. This was uh in in yeah, I think in grade six or grade six. So the I was no not grade seven. So the teacher was wondering, because some of the parents still they bring their kids with them when they. But I told her that she would be going by herself because I want her to be independent. But of course, my daughter is, she only talk to you or be friends with you if you have the same wavelength as her. If you're not gonna have the same wavelength and you talk different, topics that she doesn't like, she will never make you her friend. So I told the teacher, she has her own set of friends. I told him. So I because her classmates in the elementary, they went to the same school for the reason that is near to us. Most of them, so most of her classmates. So we were there, and I said, she has few friends. I said, but they're not with her in the grade in the same class. I told her, to the teacher, you will notice that when you will notice that if she saw her friends, of course she will say hi or talk to them. So, and she doesn't easily make new friends because she's observing which can be her friend. And then that's the only thing. She will observe first, because she does. I don't know. She doesn't want to waste time, making small chit chat for. At the end, it will be like useless because they don't have the same wavelength and they don't talk the same topic. So it's just a waste of time for her. So they observe first. When the teacher noticed this, her characteristic, so the teacher told me, talk to me and about her, and why she speak English only. So I told the teacher that we were planning to go back to the U.S. So that's why I told her English. But then later on, I decided not to go back. So the teacher understands the reason, and then so of course when you're the only one who speak pure English, you will be noticed. So, but she never get bullied. And then later on, that when I talked to teacher, because she was new, so the teacher was worried. So I was happy that the teacher was worried. But then later on, when there's there's a PTA meeting. I attended PTA meeting at first because she was new. I'm so lazy. I think because when I realized that the PTA meeting was just just to talk about school project and everything, I said I just gotta donate money. It's not about really about school activities anyway. When she was in elementary, I attended all the PTA meeting because she needs that kind of assure. But when she became a teenager, I only attend when it's really necessary. So when the teacher talked to me during the PTA meeting about her, and after half of the school year, and they told me, the good thing about her is that, of course, she gets start making friends, and then instead of her talking Ilonggo, her classmates were talking English, and her classmates start to talk English, and everybody, they all talk to her in English. So it's like instead of her being influenced, imagine the whole class speaks Ilonggo and you're the only one in English, and yet you'll be able to make them talk to you in English. So I was really really happy that be able to do that. But but the thing is that, if this is my experience, if you don't teach your kids so many languages when they're young, because that's a different topic. Anyway, let's go back to the bullying. So she never get bullied, even if she's the odd one, because she knows how to protect herself, because I taught her. So that's my experience. If you equip these things that I told to your kids, it may really help them, because you introduce awareness at the early age. You give them the anti-bullying uh, knowledge. So they know how to protect themselves. They know when to, they know what is bullying. They know that it's not good, that that will affect them, emotionally and mentally. They are kids. They don't know anything. They need your guidance. So if you provide all these things that I said, I hope it will work. It will work well. Start for the first time they go to school. Try to teach this to your kids. In my experience, it works for me. I hope it works for you too. I also, of course, I read some research, about bullying, and the best thing is awareness. How to protect yourself, how to protect your kid, how to teach your kid how to protect themselves. Once they have, and of course, nobody can bully you if your kid is, no, if it's being protected and they know what is bullying. And also, this is, as a parents, boost your kid self-esteem, boost their self-esteem. You may not notice it, but our words that we speak at home, when it's negative, you may think it's not bullying, but you are already bullying your kids, calling them stupid, calling them any words that is negative, that is not their name. You yourself are bullying your kids, and then you will later will wonder why your kid is bullying other kids. Of course, they may not get bullied because but they don't know that they don't know that they're bullying other kids, because this is what they experience at home. So as a parents, we should be aware of what we're saying to our kids. So this is my in for me, we are responsible to our kids. If we were not be able to provide things that they needed to grow them as a human being, then don't have kids. You don't have the right to bring out a bad person in this world, unless you really, or unless you're a bad person yourself. Anyway, that's not the point here. My point is here. If you want to bring out a healthy kid, a good human being, then it's not, their needs is not only about food, clothing, and shelter. You might be able to spend time to them, to provide them with emotional, mental support. So, as a parents or a future parents, take it over before having kids. And if you have kids, some parents, they don't, they don't, are not aware of their kids' behavior. So your kid might be a victim of their other kids being bullying your kids. So equip them with anti-bullying. That's what I said earlier. So I hope it works. I hope you learned something. And thank you for watching or listening. And bye.